As well. Love you too, Dad.
Good evening. My name is Scott Lee, and I'm alcoholic. I got a bad case of it, and I really appreciate the opportunity to participate in my own recovery tonight. Thank you all so much. And I love the topic. I love everything going on here. I like to open with anything I do with a quotation from Lois Wilson, who was asked one time what she did in the moment of silence before the Serenity Prayer. She said, I invite God to the meeting. It's not that I don't believe God's here. I do believe that. But I seem to get a special gift when I stop and honor that presence. So in a few moments, I'm going to ask you to do that. Now, a lot of people here, probably somebody here either doesn't believe there's a God, or you got here like I did, afraid there might be one based on what you've been told. Oh, or you maybe just don't know. If that's your case, allow me to recommend that you borrow mine for this time we're together tonight. I recommend him very highly. He has a great sense of humor. If you don't think so, look who he's got trying to carry his message tonight. And been keeping me sober since the 28th of June of 1984. I have a 37-year chip in my pocket. And so something is working. So if you don't have a God, or you're afraid there might be one, borrow mine. Address him as a God of Scott's limited understanding, because that's the truth. And let's invite God to the meeting. I'll meet you back here in just a moment. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. A couple of things. Thanks to Ali and Teresa and Mickey, you guys, for putting this together and allowing me to come share. I am so thrilled. It's hard to have a bad meeting out of the book, and I believed it for a long time. And I should also tell you, I have two things. I have a central nervous system disorder called essential tremors. I got to shake in my hands, and occasionally my head will do this when I don't even know it's happening. And so it may look like I disagree with something I'm saying. I don't. If I say it tonight, I actually mean it. Now, I'm still learning, so later I may disagree. But if I say it tonight, I mean it. Don't trust the head shakes. The other thing is, you're probably wondering what this big patch is on the side of my face. I tried to take a piece of Halloween candy from a little girl last night. She almost knocked me out, so that I had to have stitches there, and I think I'm going to be okay. Anyway, I love you. And on awakening, a friend of mine points out it does not say, after a shower and shave, 2 ovaries in bacon, half a pot of coffee, watching the news, and a fight with her. It says, on awakening. And the reason is that I wake up with untreated alcoholism every morning. And my disease gets up about 20 minutes before I do every morning. Does some jumping jacks, some push-ups and crunches, and it perches on the headboard and it waits. I open my eyes, roar, and it jumps. And I wake up with untreated alcoholism every morning. And I will admit I do a quick potty break, but that's it. I'm right back to get my day started on a spiritual basis. And I want to tell you a story that I think kind of sets up what I want to say. I had the privilege a number of years ago of driving this airplane to the United States Air Force. I can't figure out how to shrink it down so it'll fit, but it's a 4-engine jet. And I was flying that thing literally all over the world. I've got 2,500 hours of flying time. Most of it's in that thing. And we came out of Christchurch, New Zealand, where they have a beer they call Leopard Strong. I don't know about the Leopard. I can tell you this stuff's strong, and I had a snoot full of it. I had a rather serious hangover leaving Christchurch for American Samoa. At American Samoa, we took on fuel and took off for Honolulu. It's an 8-hour flight plan. Nothing in between but water. About halfway across, we get into the new fuel. It was contaminated. It had water in it. At our altitude, strangely enough, they don't call it water because it's minus 50 degrees. They call it ice. And it clogs the fuel lines. The jet engines, about so big around, don't respond well to fuel starvation. So we come down into warmer air. We haven't had one stuck up there yet. They will come down. And we come down into warmer air. We can run the engines down here, but we don't have gas to make Honolulu at this altitude. And it's already closer to go on than it is to go back. A jet engine is more efficient at higher altitude. First thing you do in a jet, if you get in trouble on fuel, is add power and climb. You'll get that climb fuel back. We can't make it at this altitude. So we climb back up. We can't stay. The worst thing you can do in a plane for a gas mileage is to go up and down. And that's what we're doing. Because the numbers say we're going to put a 300,000 pound airplane into the Pacific Ocean at about 170 or 80 miles an hour today, and we're all going to die. A pretty good percentage of the people can hear my voice right now have had the experience of thinking they were going to die in the next moment or two. We faced jealous husbands and looked down gun barrels and drug deals gone bad and laid down bikes and wrecked cars and trucks. A lot of us have thought we were going to die in the next moment or two. Let me tell you something. 4 hours is a long time to think you're going to die today. It's a long time. And I promised to God, I don't think I believed in if he would get me out of this one, I would quit smoking. That was first. Quit smoking, quit drinking, quit visiting ladies I'm not married to. I'm going back to church, the early service. I might even build some churches. Let me tell you what, kids, you don't leave anything in the bag on this one. And 10 fuel tanks on this airplane, all saying zero. The engines are still turning. We decided to shoot a forced landing at Hickam Air Base, Honolulu. If we could make what's called high station for a forced landing, we could at least crash on dry land so our bodies could be sent home for burial. That is the conversation in the cockpit. We turned the final at Hickam at 9,000 feet. You know anything about flying? If they'd all quit then, we'd have made dry land. We landed, taxied in, shut down the engines, and they dipped our fuel tanks like you dip your gas, your oil to see how much oil you got. They dipped our fuel tanks. We did not have enough fuel left on that airplane to start 4 engines and taxi from where I'm sitting to the street. We did not have that much left. And I did not even go to the hotel. I went straight to the officers club bar, put my bags down on either side of the bar stool. I said, Mai Tai, tall one, pack of smokes, right? Surely you understand that. This is what I see from the eyes that y'all have given me. In those days, when I prayed, I was trying to make him my God. What I've been taught here is how to make me his man. You see, I had it backwards. I had so many things backwards. And so this make me his man is really kind of my theme tonight. It says on awakening that I don't need to get started into a day without checking in. And I'm going to share with you my morning prayer this morning, and I'm going to take it apart and talk about individual pieces and what they mean to me. On awakening, I considered the 24 hours ahead, but before that, I thank God for some things. I find it seems to open the channel if I thank him for some stuff. I don't think God needs to be thanked. I think I need to thank. It somehow puts my spirit in a position for better communication. I can't explain that any better than that. And then I invite him in to be God today and ask him if I could please be his man. I ad-libbed some form of the 3rd or 7th step prayer at that point, appointing him in charge of my life. And then I asked for some very specific things. The first one I asked for this morning was to bless me that I don't judge anyone. I have located the source of all anger. I can tell you where it comes from. Anger comes from being sure I'm right. And being sure I've never been angry when I wasn't sure I was right. And being right comes from having passed judgment. I must judge a situation or a person as not being up to snuff so that I can be right, so that they can be wrong, so that I can be angry. So judgment is the beginning of anger. All of my anger comes from judgment. And if I don't judge, I don't ever get angry. And so I ask first to bless me that I don't judge anyone. The big book tells me on page 66, if we were to live, so this is only for the ones that want to live. Everybody else can take a short break. If we were to live, we had to be free of anger. So if I don't know how to get free of anger, but if I get free of judgment, it takes the anger with it. The other thing I've discovered is that anger and love never travel together. They're what they call mutually exclusive. If I'm in one of those, I am not in the other. And serving the God of love is not a part-time job. So the question is, where am I? If I find myself in anger, I have to stop immediately and pray and ask God, please, I have judged something or someone. Please help me get out of this judgment and help me be sad instead of angry. Anger and love don't travel together. Sadness and love do. It's going to say over here in another page or so, we pause when agitated. And which is easy to do, of course, except when I'm agitated. But that's when it's the most important time to do it, is because that pause is the place for me to check in with higher authority, to try to get changed from anger to sadness. If I respond in anger, I wind up making amends. If I respond in love, because I've gotten to sadness, I rarely make amends. And I'm not terribly fond of making amends. I just don't get that much out of it. So I'd rather not put myself in a position where I have to make amends. So I begin my prayer asking God to bless me that I don't judge anyone today, that I might love them as he does, that he would empty me of self, because the book tells me in the reading on the third step in page 62, above everything, I've always wondered if that was important. Above everything, we must be rid of this selfishness, or it kills us, by the way. So I've got to be rid of the selfishness. So I asked him, but I can't change me. If I could change me, I would have said, no, thank you. I'm not talking tonight. I got other things I can do. I would just change me and go on my merry way. I can't change me. If I could change me, I would. But I can change my actions today. And as I change my actions today, day after day after day, I become changed. But I don't change me. I don't have the power. So I ask him to empty me of self and fill me with his love, shaken together, pressed down, heaped up, overflowing, that it might gush out of me all over everyone that I meet this day. And then I ask him, I quit praying for guidance 35 years ago. I was praying for guidance one morning. It occurred to me, one, I'm giving God his directions again, and that never worked very well for me. You may have noticed that God's kind of hard to train. I've tried a number of times. It's just not easy to train. And so I need to quit giving his instructions, is the first piece on that. The second piece is it occurred to me that a loving God is sending his guidance as a free and clear gift every day. I'm asking for what has already been given. It's already been given. And so I don't pray for guidance. What I ask for is that I would be open to his guidance. All the blocks in the channel between Scott and God are at Scott's end. His end is clear. So that's not where any of the problems lie. So I ask him to bless me that I might not miss any of his guidance today. I ask him very specifically that I not miss any chances to be of service or to spread love and joy. I said before, serving the God of love is not a part-time job. I meant to have it in my pocket, and I don't, but I will tell you a story. I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat in May of last year. And the first thing they did was take my teeth, because they're going to radiate me and kill my jawbone. You can't have teeth in the dead jawbone, apparently. And they haven't been able to fit me with a denture yet. And the first thing I realized was my assignment. My assignment was to cheer up the people who were trying to cheer me up, because I don't need to be cheered up. I'm sitting in God's lap. I'm doing just fine. Thank you. My fear of death has been gone for over 30 years, and I know when it left. I had a severe kidney problem about 30 odd years ago. And it hurt so bad that I couldn't be still. They call it writhing in pain. I don't know the term, but it hurt so bad you cannot be still. Knowing you can't relieve the pain, you still can't be still. It was that bad. And it occurred to me that I'd offered God my will and my life, never had offered him my death. So I did, because I thought I might be dying. I said, God, I'm not asking to go, but if it's time, take me. Thy will be done. My fear of death, been gone since then. I checked the other day. I just had a little surgery, and that fear of death is still gone. It's been gone since then. Death casts kind of a bad reputation. And yet, if you'll think about it, death was invented by the same God who invented smallmouth bass, vanilla ice cream, and sex. Good job, right? I've seen his work. Same guy invented it. I think it's the great adventure. I think it's a great adventure. I'm 78 years old. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not eager, but I am so ready. I am excited about it. I want to see that big spot on Jupiter that's twice the size of Earth. I want to visit some of the other civilizations I suspect are strewn among the stars. I want to walk through heaven and hug my mother again and tell her what a great mom she was and thank her again, and my dad. And I want to hug some of the beautiful people who carried this message to me and thank them. It's nothing to be afraid of. It was invented by that same God. And my fear of death is still gone. So my job was to cheer up the people that tried to cheer me up. So I put a clown nose on my mask. It's on with a safety pin. I left it in the car. And so I wear that all the time. And I carry these in my pocket. And I give away clown noses. I gave away 150. I ran out on Halloween. I also give away bubbles. And I'll tell you how that started. it wasn't intentional, but probably doesn't happen to you, but the interstate comes to a pause, a stop every once in a while around here. And when it did, I used to get angry. Oh, there's a better answer. So I carry clown noses. And when the interstate comes to a stop, I put it in park and get out a clown nose and put it on. And then I drop the driver's window and I start blowing bubbles out the window to get the attention of the other drivers. And when they see me, they start laughing and I start laughing because laughter is contagious. It's just contagious. And if I'm going to serve the God of love, it has to be all the time. And love and laughter are my assignments. They just are. So I've been carrying clown noses and bubbles for a long time. It was a very easy transition. And so now, I mean, I give them away in grocery stores and just all over the place. It's just been the most fun. But I've gotten to the place where I just kind of became okay. So I ask him each morning, bless me that I don't miss any chances to be of service or to spread love and joy. Page 8, for those of you who have brought your book to class, Bill says in his story, I had no idea we were going to cover this tonight. He says, I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. Einstein had said the four dimensions were width, depth, height, and time. And the fourth one being time. The time I've catapulted into is to right this moment, a place the alcoholic rarely visits. Right here, right now. This is where the action is. And but he goes on to describe, Bill describes in his own words that fourth dimension. He says, I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that's incredibly more wonderful as time passes. Happiness, I get that. I want to be happy. Aristotle said that's what everyone wants, to be happy. Peace, yeah, I want to be quiet in here, not have my brain ricochet around inside my head like a golf ball hitting a Turkish bath. I understand those two. What is usefulness doing on that list? That's about somebody else. Well, I figured it out. Usefulness is the path to happiness and peace. It's how I get there. It is exactly how I get there. I've read this book quite a few times. I'm a real fan of the big book. I'm a big book enthusiast. I used to use another word. And a woman came to me at a conference one time and said, I'm of German descent, and that word offends me. And I said, thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it. Can you suggest another word? And she said, enthusiast. I said, yes. And I've been a big book enthusiast since then. I'm continuing to hitchhike on that on page 84 in what we affectionately call the 9-step promises. The third line says, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. What in the world are uselessness and self-pity doing together? And the answer is the way out of self-pity is through being useful. I don't allow myself. I have, over the last year or so, I've been this poster boy for one day at a time for just living in this day. But I have thought my way into a depression a couple of times. Self-pity, whatever you want to call it. The way out is to go be useful. Call a newcomer and ask them what's going on. Take a meeting into a gated community. That's a jail, you know, or a treatment center or a detox. To get out of myself, to go do something for somebody else, lifts my spirit every time. I can't lift my own spirit, but as I try to lift yours, as a side effect, mine is lifted. So I ask God every morning to bless me that I not miss any chances to be of service, because what I've discovered is if I'm sloshing joy all over you, it splatters onto me every time. There's no way to block it. I also look for ways to spread joy and love and to be of service. My sponsor many years ago defined anonymity as doing something good for someone else and not getting caught. That's anonymity. And I give my last name in AA meetings in keeping with our tradition of anonymity. If that didn't make any sense to you, I'd like to recommend the book, Dr. Bob and the Good Old Timers, around page 260. Anyway, I got that lesson. It was December the 23rd or 4th. And it was almost time to start Christmas shopping. And so I was in the car, and it was some of that white, nasty stuff that you Yankees know about was coming out of the sky. And it was raining, it was nasty. And the traffic was backed up, and I'm trying to turn into this mall. And I watched that traffic light change 3 or 4 times. I finally turned into the mall. And I'm driving down by all these parking rows, and I get beside the store I want to go into, and somebody pulls out of the space right next to the handicapped. And what I realized is I can't have that space. I'm young. My legs are in good shape. I don't need it. I'm going to drive by that space and leave it for somebody who I will probably never meet to lift their spirit. And what happens is when I do something good for someone else and don't get caught, God gets the credit and I get the gift. And the gift is a piece of sunshine about the size of a clown house that lodges itself in my chest. And I can think about what I did any time of the day or night, and it glows and sends light through my whole body. As long as I don't tell. If I tell, it gets out with the words and it doesn't get to stay. So anonymity is doing something good for somebody else and not getting caught. And if you look around, there are people who do that, and you can see the light shining out of their eyes. That's what it's about. Going back to my morning prayer, I ask him that if he has lessons for me today, that I might learn them quickly with as little collateral damage as possible. I think the most expensive lessons are the ones that someone else pays for. And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit here. And then I send love to all the places I'm going today. So there'll be some there when I get there. And I sent love to all of you this morning prior to my day getting started. I always do that. I think it's just so critically important. And I send love to a lot of people, and I see several of them on here. I can see at least 3 individuals that I pray for every day. And then I go about my day. I was sitting by a stream a year or so ago, and I was not fishing. And if you knew me, you know how unusual that was. And I looked across and I saw a thunderstorm. And it occurred to me, every drop of rain in that thunderstorm is following God's will perfectly. And I saw a bird in a tree. I thought, well, so is that bird. I looked into the stream and I see minnows. I think those little fish are following God's will perfectly. Why can't I? I got my answer. And the answer is I am. I am following his will perfectly. I am convinced to the core of my being it is not my job to be perfect. If it's not my job to be perfect, what's my job? My job is to make mistakes. Oh, and I'm good at it. Oh, they sent the right guy. And I've been told all my life we learn from our mistakes. Well, that's not true. If that's true, if we learn from our mistakes, I'm not looking at anybody who's been arrested more than once. Good luck on that. Yeah. So guys like me don't learn from our mistakes. We learn from living with the results of our mistakes. I'm convinced that planet Earth is a school. I'm pretty sure I flunked out of someplace else, or I was tossed out as a behavior problem. If you heard the rest of the story, you'd be convinced very quickly. And the first lesson was, how does it look, Scott, when you run full throttle after your own will? How's that working? Having seen that, are you willing to offer that back up and say, okay, God, you gave me this free will. I gave it a test drive. I'd like to trade it in sight unseen on your will. It can't be as bad as mine. That's step 3 I'm talking about. That's really what step 3 says. And step 7 says the same thing. So that's where I have to remain. I continue to fall victim to the delusion that I can rest, satisfaction, and happiness out of this world if I only manage well. That's probably on page 61. What it says is I'm so crazy, I think if I can get what I want, it'll make me happy. I have failed to notice the tens of thousands of times I got what I wanted, was not rendered happy. So we use the term progress. I'm going to give you a definition of progress. It's my definition. Progress is making the same old mistake a little less often, or making a new and finer quality mistake. Because anything beyond that's perfection, and then it's not my assignment. It's not only okay to make mistakes, it's why I'm here. It's my assignment. So here's the learning process as I understand it, based on that. Item 1, make a mistake. Item 2, be notified. I don't always know I made a mistake. You got to tell me sometimes. Item 3, own the mistake. Yes, Your Honor, that was me. And if they only know 80%, I got to tell them the other 20. Item 4 is to consult a spiritual advisor about how to item 5, make the amend. Frequently, not always, frequently there's an amend involved. Item 6 is to embrace the lesson. A mistake is just an invitation to a lesson. The evidence is if I'd already learned a lesson, I would not have made a mistake. It's just an invitation to a lesson. A mistake is an invitation dressed in its work clothes. That's all it is. And so I have to embrace. If you'll hold that thought, that a mistake is an invitation to a lesson and that we learn by living with the results of our mistakes. Read the 12 steps. Half of them are about me embracing the results of my mistakes. It's where the learning occurs. So 6 is embrace the lesson. 7 is share the lesson. 8 is when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made a mistake. If I don't tell you I made the mistake, I'm preaching, and not too many people want to hear it. When I tell you I made the mistake, I stand as a sinner beside a sinner, and he can hear me. And 9 is go make the next mistake. There is such a phenomenal freedom in that. I have my own permission to make mistakes. Wow. You can't, if you don't have yours, you can't imagine. Excuse me, the radiation they did in my throat, it's all scar tissue. I've got to drink a lot of water to just keep talking. So, do you ever meditate? Try to get your mind to a place where there's nothing. Well, I just scored that. I got no idea where we are in this talk. I shouldn't have drank the water. It'll come back if somebody knows where we are here. The freedom. It came back. Sometimes my thought train leaves the station without me. So half of the freedom is I have my own permission to make mistakes. That's half the freedom. The other half is you have my permission to make mistakes. That's the Al-Anon half. If I got a rope on you, holding you in line, and you jump out, you pull me with you. It's when I can release my grip on that. When I don't have to feel like I know what you should do. And that's just not as individuals, that's everybody. I'm out of the business of knowing what everybody needs to do. I'm a little bit busy looking for ways to share, to be of service, to spread love and joy. I'm way too busy to be judging you or figuring out what you should be doing. There is a phenomenal freedom in that, to be able to just simply walk humbly in his presence. So I know what God's will is, by the way. I'm going to share it with you. Is first is to stay in today where he is. There's one who has all power that one is God. May you find him now. Now isn't when I find God, it's where. My God is the God of right now. That's the problem with mentally going into the future, is he's not there. He's not there. When I go into the future, I go alone. My time travel machine's a one-seater, and I go without him, I'm in bad company. So I need to stay here where he and you beautiful people are. It's just so critically important that I do that. So part of God's will is for me to live in this day, one day at a time. One day at a time, hardest assignment I've ever been given. Most of the men I sponsor sober over 20 years. We talk more about sponsorship than anything else. The number 2 topic is trying to stay in today. It's that hard. It is that hard. All the good questions contain the word today, and all the good answers contain the word today. The question isn't, what am I doing about my finances? It's the wrong question. What am I doing about my finances today? What am I doing about my relationship? What do you do about it today? Feel the difference in those questions? It is so massive to just simply be here where he is. So part of God's will is for me to stay here today. Another part of it is to operate within his principles. I say, turn it over. What is it I turn over? I turn over the result. How do I do that? 1 is I stay in today where he is. And 2 is to operate within his principles. I hear a lot of people saying, check your motive. And I think it's good to have good motives. But page 60 in the big book tells me I can't trust them, because I am fully capable of hiding a bad motive under a good one and fooling myself. Fully capable of that. I believe my own BS. And so motive governs outcome, irrespective of action. Motive says, I know how it should turn out, so I can do anything I have to do to make it turn out that way. It's one of the ways I play God. Principle says, govern your action, irrespective of outcome. So I turned it over. 1, I stay in today where God is. And 2, I operate within his principles. And then he handles the result. That's how that works for me. So I need to stay in today where he is. I need to invite him into my day. And then I need to conduct myself in a manner that I make him welcome. Don Fritz, if you've never heard of Don Fritz, get one of his talks. Don't go to bed tonight without getting one of Fritz's talks. He didn't say God was a gentleman. He said he learned to treat God like a gentleman. Gentlemen don't go where they're not invited. They don't stay where they're not made welcome. So my job is to invite him into my life every day and then conduct myself in a manner all day without exception. I think I'll make him welcome. And then I had to clean up my language. That was hard for me. I was very creative with my profanity, and I had to clean it up. I have to drive my car like I care about you. I'm a type A personality. I get in the car, I'm going somewhere. Put your blinker on near me in traffic, I will let you in. It's a spiritual experience for me every time I slow down, let somebody in, okay? But I got to treat you like brothers, because that's another part of God's will for me, is to treat you guys like brothers and sisters. Another part of it is to get out there and make those mistakes today and own them and embrace the lessons and share the lessons. I know what God's will is. Very simply, is to walk humbly in his presence today, spreading love and joy and treating you guys like brothers and sisters, making mistakes, embracing the lessons, and going on. I got no idea what his plan is. The first step says I'm not management, don't need to know what the plan is. None of my business, not interested, but I know what his will is. And that has made everything so much simpler for me. So that was my morning prayer. And then I check in with him during the day. It says here, when we retire at night, I'm on page 86. And this is the AARP version of the big book, if you don't recognize it. We constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? That list is all over this book. I found it first in the resentment inventory, resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid. I found it in step 10, which, by the way, for me, step 10 differentiates from step 11. Step 10 is about being present in my own life moment by moment. It uses the word continue 4 times in the first paragraph in the reading of step 10. This evening inventory is step 11. And I think it's so important to distinguish them, because step 10 is about being present in my own life moment by moment. And I think there's a slogan that applies, and it's easy does it. If I'm running Mach 2 with my hair on fire, I don't know when I screw up. If I slow down, I can find out. If I wait till 11 o'clock tonight to look for the mistake I made at 7 o'clock this morning, promptly is already out of the equation. So that's not what it's about. But anyway, this list, resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid, appears in the exact same words in step 10. Here it is in 11. Here's a similar one on page 88, also in 11. Excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, foolish decisions, similar list. And page 145 has a list that's very similar also. It starts in the dead center of the page. The greatest enemies of us alcoholics are resentment, jealousy, envy, frustration, and fear. Very similar list. So I asked myself, what do those things have in common? What is it they're telling me? And to me, the answer is they are the earmarks of the reemergence of self. All right, resentful. Resentful is I'm angry because I didn't get my will at some time in the past, or I'm not getting my will right now. That's what that is. Selfish, I want my will, and I'm really sorry you're standing between me and my will. I didn't want to run over you, but you shouldn't have been standing there. Dishonest, I'm willing to lie, cheat, steal to get what I want and my will. Fear or afraid. Fear is the concern that I may not get my will at some time in the future. Those things are all about my will. So they are the earmarks of the reemergence of self. That's what they are. And fears are always in the future. I got that lesson from a lady friend of mine years ago who was held as a hostage in a bank robbery. She's standing there getting ready to cash a check, and all of a sudden there's a hairy arm around her throat and a pistol in her ear. And she said that while she was standing there, she was physically uncomfortable and not free to go about her business. But if she could have stayed in the moment, she was really all right. Her fear was that he would shoot her or that he would kidnap her. But her fears were in the future, and that's when I got it. When I get into fear, I'm in the future. And when I'm in the future, I'm without God, because my God is the God of right now, and he's not in the future. I brought a surprise for you guys tonight. My good, very close friend, dear friend, Olaf, has had a rather interesting breakthrough about children. And just because I have the chance here, I'm just going to call on him and ask him to talk for the next couple of minutes about it. Olaf, you're on, buddy. Because this is really about fear.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much, Scott. My name's Olaf. I'm an alcoholic. Thanks for allowing me to share this piece of my life that I've been struggling with for a long time. 5 years ago, my daughter had her 3 children taken away from her, and her life spiraled downhill ever since. And I remember I was at a conference in Baltimore, and I got a phone call from her, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs, telling me somebody was chasing after her and that wants to kill her. And I was powerless. I had no defense. I didn't know what to do. I just prayed. And I tried to talk to her. As it turned out, she was high on drugs. She had gotten into a fight prior to having the kids taken away from her. She got into a fight with her boyfriend, and he beat the face off her so bad she was unrecognizable. And shortly after that, the children's services came, took the kids, and then she just went off the hilt. She's been living outside, doing what addicts are doing. And that just broke my heart. I just was broken. And I went down there many, many times, tried to change her mind. And all I got was a fight. Every time I said to her, please come home, she would just run away, or she'd swear at me. Two Christmases ago, my wife and I, we drove down there and tried to find her, and we found her. We took her out for breakfast, and I sat there and I was looking at her the same way I looked at her when she was a little kid, same way I looked at her when she was small and sleeping or just wide awake having her breakfast, that with such concern and deep care in my heart. And I started to cry, and I begged her. I said, Stephanie, please come home. Please come home. And she looked at me with fire in her eyes and said, asking me to come home with you is like asking you to stop going to AA. Now leave me the hell alone, and don't you ever ask me that again. And I was crushed. I was absolutely crushed. Hands off, pays off, I'm telling you. We brought her back to the shelter, and on my way home, I couldn't stop crying. And I called my sponsor, and he taught me this prayer. And as soon as I got off the phone with him, I dropped on my knees and I said, okay, God, if it be your will, take her. Take her from this earth. Dear God, if it be your will to leave her here, leave her here. And if it be your will for me not to know today, let me not know. And so I've had relief ever since then, at least enough relief where I don't have to think about it and go crazy anymore, or go down there and chase after her anymore. I just learned something new the other day from a reading out of our book on page 113. We find that most of this embarrassment is unnecessary. While you need not discuss your daughter at length, you can quietly let your friends know the nature of her illness, but you must be on guard not to embarrass her or harm her. And what I've been doing ever since I found out about this was I was describing to people exactly what she was doing, how she was doing it, what she looked like, and what her condition was. And to tell you this right now, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but I have to say this because that's not only breaking her anonymity, I'm also tearing her down and slandering her character. If she was present while I was talking about her like that, she'd be pretty upset. So it's not my business to tell people exactly in detail what's going on, maybe in a very general way, the way I explained to you. But more than that, I have no right. What I take away from this experience, I can't change her. She doesn't want another answer. She has found her answer. This is the way she wants to live. Her kids have gone to visit. We brought our oldest grandson down to visit, and she's not interested. Her answer is doing what she's doing today, just today. I thank God on a very regular basis for healing her mind and covering her up with her love. I thank him daily in advance, believing that she'll be okay. And what I take away from this is a message. My mess, years of running after her and trying to manage her and change her life, years of going bananas and not living my life. What I take away is a message of hope that I can live a healthy life and enjoy my life and spread joy and fun. And my message is to let you know that you can do the same. I'm having a blast. I love my life. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thanks, Olaf. I appreciate that. I had asked him earlier today if he would share that. It was a beautiful thing to me. This is page 13. Never was I to pray for myself except as my request for my usefulness to others, then all I might expect to receive that would be in great measure. We did that first moment of science. I asked God to make me perfect for this time. Not for me, but I could be open to you. I do that each time when I want to talk to somebody I sponsor. I do it frequently during the day. Whenever I'm about to share with someone, please make me a perfectly open channel for whatever you've got for here. Because serving the God of love is not a part-time job. We invited God. I'm pretty sure he came. And when we close this meeting, I'll be thanking him, and I hope you do too. And right now, I'd just like to thank you for your time. And Olaf, thank you for your share.